Yeah, tell me what you think. That's the, Andy Warhol has pop art. Well, this is prop art. Anyway, today I want to talk a little bit about why the digital media companies we kind of grew up with kind of suck now. What happened? Vice and BuzzFeed and Vox and all these media companies that grew up after the wave of CNNs and Bloomberg's and NBC News, which were considered staid and old-fashioned, for a while they were really cool, right? Vice was really cutting edge. A lot of people love BuzzFeed. A lot of people like Vox. And then over time, they kind of all blended into each other. And that you could read an article, if you were to take the label, the branding off an article, I don't think most people would be able to tell whether it came from Vice or BuzzFeed or Vox or Attention or Quartz. It doesn't seem to matter. And that's because in my observation, there's a kind of Laffer curve to scale, which means there's a law of inefficiency the further you scale. So when a company's small, like particularly a media company, it's able to do a lot of things quickly, nimbly, and take risks. And taking risks is the key word here. They're willing to do stuff that other media companies aren't willing to do because they have nothing to lose. They don't have expensive brand deals. They don't have expensive programmatic ads. They don't have a company of 500 to 1,000 employees, all with varying perspectives on life and individuals and ideologies. And so they just go out there and tell stories or show videos or whatever it may be and think like, heck, if it takes off, great. If it goes viral, great. If it doesn't, that's all right. We'll do the same thing again tomorrow and see what happens. And then as that success grows, the company wants to grow along with that success. So they hire more people, they bring on lawyers, they bring on marketing teams. And this company balloons and balloons and balloons and balloons. And for a while, things are good, right? The success is rolling in, so they hire more people. And the more people provide more success. But after a certain point, you reach such a scale that it becomes much more difficult to do anything risky. You have so many people that are, one, dependent on this job and employment and dependent on all the brand deals and advertisements that this company has now signed. And all these brands and advertisements have their own point of view and perspective and demands about what they want their advertisements to run on, what kind of content they want to see their advertisements a part of. And because these new digital media companies tend to hire young people, and young people tend to be, one, both liberal and rather unperspectived in history, which is not a bad thing. It's not a bad thing to have a lot of young people that are liberal and unperspectived in history, but it shapes these companies in a way that is very similar to each other. And so you wind up getting the same kind of watered down material after a time because all these companies have grown to a scale where they're now beholden to a lot of their advertisers, and the advertisers want to keep a hold of Vice's, demographics, and Vice doesn't want to lose their demographics because that's what keeps the advertisers around. And then on top of that, all their employees collectively have shared opinions and ideologies. And these three things working in tandem, a kind of collective shared ideology among employees for the most part, a set demographic that the media company built but then doesn't want to lose and is feared of losing. They don't want to rock the boat too much in fear of losing this demographic. And that demographic they're afraid of losing because the advertisers want that demographic, and the advertisers have paid a lot of money to make sure that demographic still exists. So these three events are working congruently to each other to keep any sort of large media company from being too risky. It just becomes risk adverse after a point in time. And that risk adverse shows itself kind of wherever the needle stopped in that company growing in its taking risks. So you see, the Vice that is today basically has existed since Vice became risk adverse. The BuzzFeed you see today is the BuzzFeed that, stopped growing once it became risk adverse. Same with Vox. And that's why I think a lot of the time media companies, they grow, they're interesting, they're exciting, they do new things, they grow to a certain scale, and then they become passé. And you saw this with the early CBS, NBC, ABC. ABC was originally the new guy in the street against NBC and CBS. I mean, they famously did the Gore Vidal versus William F. Buckley debates during the presidential debates. And then ABC became staid. And then you saw CNN take off, doing new interesting things during the Desert Storm operation and covering the news. A lot of foreign correspondence and getting a lot of live video feeds. And then they became staid. And then you saw the Vice and the Vox and the BuzzFeeds come up, and they did a lot of interesting things, and now they've become staid. And it's the natural cycle of media to always grow, become risk averse, and then become passé, and a new media company to come up. Anyway, that's all for today. If you want to click around and watch another video, so I never know if it's left or right. Thanks for watching, guys. Like, subscribe. See you guys tomorrow.